everybody, Pat Huntoon here, and today we're going to be making the awesome antique book plate card that you saw at the beginning of the tutorial. It has a little bit of an Asian flair to it, so I'm digging deep into some of the older stamps that you all may not have seen yet or haven't discovered on your own, so let me give you a hand in finding them. So we're going to be using S264 Japanese lettering print, and we're using the SD 061 carved pear, the SD 292 palm front, and the S402B quotes. We're using this little B here. Okay, so let me get started. First thing we're going to do is start with a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of cardstock. Stamp the Japanese lettering print onto our background piece there, our little piece of paper there, with Twilight ink. I'm using Catherine Pooler Twilight. You need a lighter mid-range gray for this. So let me stamp that and come back. So I've stamped that with the Twilight. You notice that I was heavier with the ink on the outer edges than I was in the middle because we're going to be stamping over the top of this. So the next thing I'm using is the carved pear. And I am taking that carved pear and I'm going to put it on here so that it kind of covers a lot of the letters on this side and leaves the other side there, like close to where the leaf touches the K. That's how I want to put it on there. So I'm going to stamp that in black ink. I'm using Catherine Pooler Midnight. What you really want is just an ink that you can use Copic markers on if you want to color your pear with Copics. If you're coloring your pear with colored pencils, whatever stamps you use whatever ink you use for colored pencils is fine. So let me stamp that. So that's been stamped. The next thing I'm going to do is put the B on there. So I'm just positioning it in the corner, facing up and to the right. And again, I'm just using black ink on that. And finally, because this is in this stamp position the way it is, I'm going to move the piece and arrange my palm front, the SD 292 palm front, in the corner. So I'm just going to turn my piece a little bit like this. Normally I would just use my hands for this, but since we have the MISTI out, we're just going to use the MISTI here. And I'm going to take that same black ink and just ink the top of the frond, just the top part, and stamp that. And then I think I'm going to move the paper just a little bit so I can ink this just a little bit more because I want more palm feeling to this. So I have palm there, and maybe just a little on this side. A tiny little bit over here, and palm here. This is kind of freeform here. And that, you can see the stamping portion of this is done. Okay, so the stamping portion of this is done. Now it's just to distress it and color it. So let's do that very quickly. I am going to be taking the same Twilight that I used for the background here and a blending brush. And I'm just going to lightly go around the edging here. My blending brush must have had a little green on it, so we have a little green tint to it. That's the way it is. And now, because I don't like all that white in the center, I'm just going to add a little bit more aging to the center, just enough to bring the color down so it's not so bright white. And now I'm just going to trim it around the lines. So I've trimmed that, so I left a little edge around here because we're going to be bringing out the old distress tool to make that more distressed. So let's get this colored and move on. Okay, so to color this, you can use any colors you want or any markers that you have on hand or colored pencils, but I'm using Copics. So these are the 4 colors I'm using. I'm using R14, YG05, Y08, and YG01 because I want this to appear a little brighter because we're coloring on black. We need to make it just slightly brighter. So I am starting with the green. Okay, so that is colored. It's really a no-fuss coloring thing. If you do have a swink of Stella or a Nouveau glitter pen and you want to make these butterfly wings shine a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. You can add that. And then finally, the last thing to do before we start layering is to distress this. We're pulling out all the old stops here and we're getting our distress tools. We're just going to distress the edges here. So that's been distressed on all four sides, and then I just like to just go back over that distressed area just because it brings the white out back in the edges. So I just want to go back over that and distress that. And now we're ready to layer it, but you can just see how fast that was just making that antique book plate just with artfully layered stamps. So let's layer this onto paper. So I dug deep into my bag of tricks here and found this piece of shimmery cardstock. So I'm just going to mount it on there. And that card is finished. So this is an easy way to make a layered collage card, or what we're calling antique book plate with an Asian flair. So that's our tutorial today. I hope you did enjoy our card, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube and consider subscribing to the Technique Junkies channel. Thank you for watching today. See you next time.